Good Friday evening to you. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Thanks for joining us on More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. We will be joined by cleveland.com columnist Doug Lesmerises to talk plenty of Browns coming up here in just a few minutes. The Browns, the first opportunity to hear from their newly hired defensive coordinator, Joe Woods. Woods talked about the scheme that he envisions the Browns playing, as well as how tough it's been to get his scheme implemented through virtual workouts.
Well, if I tell you, I'm telling everybody in the league what we're doing.
We'll keep it between us.
Yeah, no, really, I feel like, again, I've been on some good defensive staffs the last couple of years. Going back to my time in Minnesota, my time in Denver with Wade Phillips, and then last year with San Francisco. What I'm really putting together is a combination of what I feel like has been the top defenses the last basically 10 years. So it's really a combination of the things that I've done in Minnesota, Denver, and San Francisco. And they all fit together. Again, we're almost through our whole install. So I feel like it's going to be a really good defensive package that's simple, where the guys can play fast, but I think it'll cause some problems for the offenses.
Hey, Joe, I'm just kind of curious. Obviously this is a unique off season. You're pretty much relegated to video conferences with your players. How do you teach some of the things fundamentally that you're ultimately going to need to teach, considering the physicality of the game? I guess what I'm leaning towards is, tackling, technique, those type of things. How do you teach that now when you can't be on a practice field?
Well, the first thing, really in NFL, the way it's trended, over the last decade or so, you really don't do things physically on the field in terms of tackling guys, bringing them to the ground. So a lot of drill work and individual, a lot of group work in terms of teaching that aspect of it. But I tell you what, honestly, I feel like these Zoom meetings have been really good because it forces you to be very detailed with everything you're trying to put in. So we've had really good conversations as a defensive staff to make sure that the exact wording's right, the picture's right, the lines are right. And the same thing with the players, because everything they're getting is virtually. So they're asking a lot of good questions. And, our defensive staff has done a great job. I mean, we're doing things with testing, PowerPoint. We have different apps that coaches are using. I mean, I get on meetings every day with each position group, and I think they're doing a great job, and I think they're learning a lot. The physical part of it, that's the stuff we can't get. We just have to wait till we get on the field.
How do you, when you can't get your hands on these guys, how do you really know that they're learning everything you're trying to teach them?
It's really the process that we're going through. Like right now, I'll install the defense, and then our coaches will have an install that's more specific to their position. And part of it is a playbook install. Then the other part of it is a video install, which will include practice tape, game tape. And then the coaches have done a great job giving quizzes. We also do stuff online where we'll ask them a question, whether it's about a defense or a play, where they have to answer through their chat. Because when everybody's on the same screen, one guy says, "Oh, it's that." Everybody else is like, "Oh, yeah." But when you put them in the chat room, they have to answer individually. Now you really know if they know the question that you're asking them. So we've gone through great lengths to try to do as much as we can to really find out what they're learning. And to me, I really feel like it's going well.
Joe Woods talking about the defensive scheme as well as doing all the work virtually. Let's welcome in cleveland.com columnist Doug Lesmerises. Doug, how big of a challenge do you think it is installing a new defense through a Zoom meeting?
I wonder, what if it's better? But that is the fascinating thing about what so many people are going through in this is we're all doing our jobs in a different way. And certainly some of us are going to find that the new way we're doing it is actually better than what we thought was the standard way to do it in the past. the idea of installing a system, when you think about, right, when you think about huge defensive mistakes in an NFL season, sometimes it's a missed tackle. Sometimes it's a missed physical play, but how often is it a mental mistake? How often is it a blown coverage? How often is it a guy thinks, oh, I thought the safety had him and I let him go and all of it? You can fix that in a Zoom meeting. It's such a mental aspect of the game, and as Joe Woods said early on there, they're not doing as much hitting as they used to do back in the days with the, they understand that they want to limit some of the physical contact, and of course all that stuff's important, but I think I am very curious when all this is done to find out maybe this is a great way to install a defense, to hold guys accountable, to have them really study stuff, to be quizzing them individually. And you can't just hide in a meeting, slump down in the back. Listen, I've never been in an NFL meeting room. I'm not a former player. But I think it's possible the mental side of this, and that's what an install is, understanding what the new ideas are. And then you have to go physically execute it. And of course, they'll get to that. I'm not sure it's a problem at all. I'm not sure it might not be the way they start doing things after all, we're all back to normal.
So what you're saying is during our Skype interaction, you're not dozing off in the back, waiting for me to finally get to the point of my question? Is that what I'm taking away from this?
Well, I mean, what I would say is I'm dozing off when I'm live with Les in the studio. I'm dozing off in commercial breaks then. So I'm locked in on Skype, baby. I'm right here. So if I'm going to be a dozer, I'm going to doze no matter what. I just think I think there's opportunity, and I wouldn't say you can't do it. It's different. Clearly, it's different. But I think, what if you work the mental aspect of this so much that by the time they get back on a football field together and they start the physical part of it, everybody understands everything, rather than learn, then get on the field, then learn some more, then get on the field. They're having cram sessions, man. They can't do the physical stuff. You got to stay in shape. You got to stay healthy. I'm curious. And I think it sounds like Joe Woods has a good handle on it, right? That's part of it too. Your leadership, the people in charge have to have a good handle of the new ways of teaching and the new ways of learning for the people under him. It feels like Joe Woods has a handle on that.
The challenge would be, can you simulate it at the speed that you want to? You know what I mean? The interaction between the linebackers and the secondary, and it's got to be pretty quick and seamless, and that's something that they can't necessarily do till they get on the field.
And they will. It's just, I mean, you watch, they're going through 11-on-11s and stuff when they're in camp and when they're in OTAs and stuff. I mean, there's not a ton of full speed stuff out there. They're kind of all walking through the paces. I think just a lot of it. And yes, I mean, Dave, clearly we know that. They're talking about that in college football. The NFL has to deal with that. You have to give them enough on-field time to prep, or you're going to have injuries. I mean, beyond the fact, is your defense not going to be ready to be able to communicate and work together? Guys are going to get hurt if you don't give them time to physically prepare. But whatever that window is, again, we've been going to a world where in the NFL you're reducing and reducing and reducing the physical aspect of it, because why rep all these physical things that maybe are putting guys more in danger than what they're actually getting out of it? I just think this might be another step toward that. And then by the time you get to those physical reps, it's possible they may have a deeper mental understanding of everything than they had in the past.
You bring up an interesting point. Do you like the fact that the leadership, Kevin Stefanski, Joe Woods, they basically said this isn't going to be a problem. They're not saying, well, it might be, it could. I mean, they're saying, everybody's doing this, we're going to do it, we're going to do it better. I mean, the message is, don't use this as an excuse to the guys that are on your team.
I think I don't know if it's a trap with the Browns right now, but they feel like a digital organization. They feel like a futuristic organization. Andrew Berry just realigned the personnel department. You look at the people in there, some of the titles those people have, it feels like a next generation kind of way of doing business in the NFL. And again, you hear Joe Woods talk about everything he's talking about. That's an old, he's talking about the defenses he's been part of the last decade, what he's learned from them. And that's an old school football guy, but the way he's bringing things together and now communicating it, now that he's in charge of a defense, feels like that guy's got a handle on it. it just feels like, and we talked about this a lot during the draft, who do you trust in this new weird world? Feels like the way the Browns do business, from Andrew Berry to Kevin Stefanski to the coordinators like Joe Woods, it feels like it fits. Feels like it fits them, and that you should have faith in them. We'll find out, right? We're all going to find out on the field whether it was all true or not. But they do feel comfortable with it. And again, not to repeat myself too much, but we're all going to come out of this, when we do, with some changed behavior. And I think there may be some permanently changed behaviors in how the way NFL teams do things that will be to the benefit of the people that are currently running the Browns.
Let's shift gears to Jadeveon Clowney. The report came out earlier this week that the Browns have offered him more money than anybody else. He hasn't signed yet. There were some that were speculating it's because he doesn't want to come to Cleveland. I think this is, and I'm looking for your opinion. My opinion on this is there's no reason for Jadeveon Clowney to take any less money at this point because nobody's in camp yet. You can't physically go somewhere.
Unless this is as good as it gets. Unless the offer is only going to go down from here, right? I think it could go either way. I think you might be right. The thing that's most interesting me about all the Clowney talk is what it means for Olivier Vernon and the $15 million he's supposed to make this season and where he really fits into things right now. Because, again, by the reporting, the idea that the Browns have interest in Jadeveon Clowney, that they have this level of interest. Well, they obviously have Myles Garrett. They signed Adrian Claiborne. They have Chad Thomas around still, and they have Olivier Vernon making $15 million a year. I think it makes you wonder about what Olivier Vernon's, what his, if he's going to be on this team in 2020, what his role is going to be, that they're still that interested in a guy like Clowney. So, again, the thing that I like about this stuff, and I know people are tired of the Browns winning the offseason and it not translating onto the field, but it doesn't feel like the Browns are coming at this from a point of desperation. They're not like, it's not like, well, if they get Clowney, their defensive line is going to be in shambles. They have Myles Garrett, man. They're paying $15 million to Vernon. They've got depth there. They have high-end guys. If they get Clowney, it might lead to some other adjustments, but it's not from a point of desperation, which allows you to be smart, which allows you, if Clowney's trying to hold out for a number and you're not comfortable with that number, then the Browns can be comfortable saying, okay, we're either going to get him at this or we're not going to get him. And we're fine either way. But we're not going to be desperate and give in to everything he wants. Just like with Gerald McCoy last year and some of the other people who have been out there on the defensive line. It's not from a point of desperation. And many times in the past, the Browns have been in desperate situations and trying to acquire guys. So I think most Browns fans would tell you, get Clowney, great, right? I think there'll be some people who say, I'm not even that interested. But I don't know that anybody is out there saying, if the Browns don't get Clowney, that's a problem. I'm not sure many people think that, and that's what's good about it.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll stay on the defensive side of the ball, talking Joe Woods and what he thinks about the linebacking core. More sports and Les Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition will be right back. Stay with us.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Lesmerises, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. One area of concern on the Browns' defense has to be the linebacking core. Young and unproven, but the defensive coordinator, Joe Woods, says he likes the group pretty well right now.
Right now, we're giving them some primary positions to learn, but Coach Tarver and Coach Bloom are really trying to cross-train most of the linebackers. It's just going to be a situation once we get on the field and we start running our defense. It's going to be how well they fit it, a specific position. Are they capable of making plays based on the scheme? So it's going to be something we're going to fill out once we get back for training camp. But I tell you what, all those guys in the meetings really have been doing a good job. So I know mentally they can handle it. It's just physically what are they capable of doing?
Yeah, I wanted to go down that same path a little bit. Is there something that when you looked at Mac Wilson and Taki that jumped out about maybe their skill set or something that you could improve on, not necessarily their weaknesses, but what did you like about them that gives you optimism about how good they can be?
Yeah, I think they're both athletic. They have cover skills. They have range. I think they're both, they play with a nasty demeanor. I remember last year we were looking at Mac and Dre Greenlaw. So they're both, to me, similar type of players. So I have a reference just in terms of what I saw Dre last year. But both of those guys just look like what we want at linebacker. Athletic, play physical, run to the ball. So I think they're a natural fit. They're just both young guys that need to keep gaining experience.
Joe, I was wondering, like last year, they often played an extra safety as opposed to with a couple of linebackers, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that kind of defense? Is that the sort of stuff that you use, where it's two linebackers and more backs?
No, I've come from both systems. I would like to transition into a dime system, but it's going to be something that's going to take time to get into just because of getting the reps. But eventually I would like to have a nickel package where we have two linebackers on the field, but also just to create better matchups and be a little bit more diverse in our scheme. I would like to get to a dime package where we're putting extra safety on the field.
That is Joe Woods, the defensive coordinator of the Browns. Let's welcome back in Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. Doug, linebacker scares me. Tell me why I should be on the side of Joe Woods and not going, man, we don't have anybody that's done it.
Because it's the least important position on the defense and you can't be great everywhere. And they're only going to play two of them. And nickel is the base. And they're going to play dime. And linebackers are evaporating as meaningful positions in the NFL. That make you feel any better? It's not that their linebackers are good. It's that it doesn't matter that their linebackers are average. So, listen, man, like first of all, three linebackers. The third linebacker, I mean, it doesn't matter. They're going to play 2 linebackers, and nickel as a base just means that you're going to have that 5 DBs on the field almost all the time. Again, like they did last year, either going to be a third safety, sometimes a third corner in certain situations. And when Joe Wood starts talking about how often he wants to try to move to 6 DBs, I think what you need in the world, my gosh, I just read smarter people than me and agree with them. It's more about having safeties who can tackle like linebackers than having linebackers who cover like safety. When you hear them, though, they're talking about coverage skills for Sione Takitaki and Mack Wilson, because that's what it's got to be. But a guy like Grant Delpit is going to end up, I think, playing some roles where he's playing like a linebacker on some snaps. He's going to have to cover. He's going to have to cover tight ends at times. He might wind up in a wide receiver at times. He's going to be down in the box. He can play deep safety. But he's going to be doing things. He's going to have to tackle at times like a linebacker. And so they invested in safety, not huge, but they brought in some different names, Carl Joseph and Sendejo and some different guys, picking Delpit like that. When you have a 3rd rounder and a 5th rounder from last year in Takitaki and Mack Wilson, and then a 3rd rounder this year in Jacob Phillip as your linebacker options, when you're only going to have to play 2, listen, man, again, get me Jedrick Wills at tackle and fix that, and sign me Jack Conklin at tackle and fix that, and we'll patch it together at linebacker, man. It's fine. And linebacker is not where right. Luke Kuechly wants to come out of retirement and be a Brown, you'd take it. But I mean, that's not what it's about. And defensive line and the pass rushers that they have right now, that's what it's about. Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams and Terrence Mitchell, that's what it's about. I'll take linebacker pull.
So do you feel pretty good? And you do make a very valid point. And I've said in the past, the thing that John Lynch, GM of the 49ers, kept reminding himself last year, you can't fix everything in one off season. And it seems like the Browns have kind of taken that. Do you like what they've done? They've gone young on the defensive side of the ball, trying to see, is one of these guys a longer-term fit?
You can see, I think, how Andrew Berry, and again, lots of smart teams do this, are going to figure this out. You have guys you build around, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, guys you want to have and keep signed and have be foundational pieces. But there's going to be spots on this defense that are going to be spots where you rotate, where you bring in guys on a year contract, and then maybe they leave. Maybe you get a compensatory pick out of that. There's going to be guys where you take shots in the middle of the draft. These are great positions to draft 3rd and 4th and 5th rounders and hope every now and then you hit. And they don't cost very much. And then if they're really good, just like Joe Schobert, maybe you don't re-sign them when they get to free agency because now they're too good. They cost too much. You don't have to build around linebackers, but you have to be able to fill in constantly. And I talk about this a lot. Again, look at any great team that's consistent over a long period of time. There's a few building blocks, and the rest is a GM and a coach who can establish a style of play and find the right guys to consistently fit that over and over again. So it's not about Sione Takitaki being a guy that's going to be a 10-year starter with Brown. It's about him being a functional starter right now for a cheap price so that they can pay Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and the guys that really make a defense go. So I do like it. You have to be right over and over and over again. It doesn't mean you have to be 100% hit rate. But you can't miss on a bunch of guys and all of a sudden you have 4 questionable spots on the defense. But I think with what they've prioritized, the mix of young draft picks and some older guys making money like Olivier Vernon and Sheldon Richardson and guys like that, and then some of these smart veteran acquisitions on short deals, on show-me contracts that really work out for the team either way. If you miss, it's short-term and you're out. If you hit, maybe you can sign the guy and you just found an answer. But I think the strategy that they're addressing on the defensive side of the ball, strategy is good. Now you got to make sure you have the right guys fitting there. Not that they're all pros, but that they're good enough not to kill you so that your all pros can make the plays that win you games.
If you were going to say the Browns need this area to come through defensively on the defensive side of the ball, would it be the safeties or would it be up front? What do they need to do to be a playoff caliber team defensively? What area of that needs to do what?
Freddie Kitchens talked a lot last offseason about how the defensive line was the strength of this team. And I don't think they were dominant. I don't think they took over games on a regular basis. And then when you lost Myles Garrett, you saw the effect that had. Whether it's Olivia Vernon sticking around, whether it's Clowney coming in, but complimenting Myles Garrett, what you get out of Sheldon Richardson. Larry Ogunjobi, I think, was better early in his career than he's been in the last couple of years. If he can get that back and raise that level a little bit. Adrian Claiborne working in for a decent number of snaps. I think if you get that consistent kind of pass rush that can change the game, you make everything behind you better. But I think their secondary is good enough. And that's the hard part of all this thing. And it's not an excuse, but I think it's a reality. We just didn't see all the parts together that much last year. Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams were hurt early. Myles Garrett was suspended late. You know, there were times when you didn't get to see it all work. And so as much as they have some important pieces back on this defense, I think if they just can have them on the field and healthy at the same time together, I think that is the most important thing, because we didn't see it often enough last year.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com and The Plain Dealer. We're going to take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will talk about the most important player. What guy has to have the biggest season for the Browns to be successful? That's straight ahead. More sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back with Doug Lesmerises. Stay with us.
Celebrate NatureStone's 30-year anniversary with a free NatureStone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making NatureStone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say, it's not just a floor. Wow, it's NatureStone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to more sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. We're going to continue talking Cleveland Browns football, and we're going to switch to the offensive side of the ball. 2020 is going to be a huge year for quarterback Baker Mayfield. He really needs to put everything together and look more like he did in his rookie season back in 2018 than he did last year. Last year, without question, a disappointment. Mayfield talked recently about working virtually in the offseason, getting some guys together in Austin, Texas to work out, as well as working on his footwork at the suggestion of new quarterback coach and offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt.
I think there's been a lot of learning throughout this process. I think during all this, it's kind of made everybody go back to the just sheer fundamentals of you can't do so many complex drills and all this stuff because everybody might not have the same equipment, but we can teach the very base fundamentals of what this new coaching staff wants to do and go from there. So I think that's been the best thing, is essentially just getting back to the basics.
And I know you had some guys down last week or the week before, wide receivers and tight ends and stuff. How did that go? How good was it to get the competitive juices going a little bit? And then, like you said, try to introduce some of the new stuff and get back to the basics with them.
It felt really good. I'll be honest. I mean, we didn't have everybody. Didn't want to bring some of the younger guys down to overwhelm them because we're not through our installs yet. So wanted them to still feel like they're getting used to it. But we had 9 guys here, so it felt really good to get around them, start speaking the terminology, and for some of these guys to be around each other. I think that was a big thing for Hooper to be down here and be around some of the guys. Because a lot of them were here last year, but it was good for everybody to be around, speaking the same terminology, like I said, and, just kind of hanging out. During all this, you're kind of stuck at home, but we had a chance to get outside and throw a little bit.
Can you tell me about your footwork that Alex Van Pelt has wanted you to try? How has that been going? And, are you making a lot of progress with that? Are you getting the muscle memory to pull that off?
Yeah, so I think the big thing when he's talking about that, essentially it's changing my stance up in shotgun formation, putting my left foot forward, which I've never done. But if you look at places he's been, Andy Dalton did it in Cincinnati, Aaron Rodgers does it in Green Bay. It's just a different rhythm and timing. And so, yeah, it is breaking some of the habits that I've had for a long time, but getting used to it. It's just about repetition, to be quite honest with you. So you can drill it, you can get used to it, but then that's why having the guys down last week was so great, being able to actually translate that to real timing on routes.
Baker Mayfield talking about working on his footwork. Let's welcome back in Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com. Doug, the things you heard from Baker Mayfield during that session sounded pretty good. I mean, he certainly sounds more focused and willing to be coached.
Well, last year he had a quarterback's coach who'd never been a quarterback's coach before. So, that's my words, not Baker's words, but, I'd rather be coached by this guy. So it matters who your coach is in your position. I believe that Baker's going to have a good year. I mean, a lot of this stuff, it's the off season of deciding how much emphasis you put on things, which is we're always wrong on some stuff and right on some stuff in the off season. But again, we're talking about Jedrick Wills moving from right tackle at Alabama to left tackle with the Browns. Is that a big deal or not? There's a difference of opinion. Baker Mayfield, his quarterback's coach wanting him to change how he sets up in his stance in the pocket. Is that a big deal or not? There's not a right answer to that. I don't think you can just automatically be like, yeah, well, fine. Of course, it's fine. Great, it's fine. There's when guys have to make adjustments, it does matter a lot. But I think there's just a lot of things that point to Baker being better. But the one thing I would like to stand up, because I know everybody talked about this and wrote this, I would like to stand up on behalf of talking too much. I mean, I know everyone's he said, whatever, work in silence, and everybody's been humbled and everyone's talking about that. And I get it. I don't regret the Browns being cocky last offseason. This city needed a football team that believed in itself. So it didn't work out. It's fine. And of course, they're not going to talk as much now. But I will defend their right to have been yapping last offseason, because they did get a lot of talent together and there were a couple different reasons it didn't work. But I don't want anyone to think that Baker Mayfield should never be cocky anymore. I like Baker Mayfield when he's like that. So bring it down for a little bit now. I get it. What everybody wants to hear. But man, I want when Baker gets out there and has a 300-yard passing game, I'd like I'm feeling dangerous Baker to reappear. So I like that.
Your quarterback has to be. I mean, if he isn't, you have to have a quarterback that is like that. How important, and you and I have talked about it before, I just think not having a true quarterback coach, I mean, you could see the deterioration of what he was doing fundamentally. And I'm not by any means somebody that's trained to do that, but there was nobody that he could go to that could correct it. How important do you think it is to have a guy like Alex Van Pelt, who has worked with Aaron Rodgers, he's worked with Andy Dalton, granted, whatever you think of him, he's a guy that had some really good years under Alex Van Pelt.
I think it's huge. I mean, I think, I'm very wound up about Ohio State's quarterback's coaching situation, because I just think it's so important. And I think you can take for granted when your quarterback has talent. I think sometimes it can be well, what's the big deal? The guy knows what to do. Baker had a good rookie year. He knew what to do. Justin Fields at Ohio State, he had a good year. He knows what to do. I think sometimes when you are a young quarterback who does have talent, that's when you need to be coached the most. You want to be coached hard because you want to go from good to great. You don't want to settle. You're smart, you're curious, you're committed. You have a million questions. You want to know every detail and every nuance. So if Alex Van Pelt is in there, I'm imagining that Baker Mayfield said, like, okay, you did this with Rodgers. What did you talk about? What did he think? When he saw this coverage, what did he do? How did he adjust? Great. So important. It helped keep an eager, high potential quarterback engaged. And I think when you had a quarterback last year, a quarterback's coach Ryan Lindley, who just had not done it, who just was young and can't interact with Baker in that way. And I think we can all fall in the traps of thinking that, like, the head coach, if he has some experience with quarterbacks, is going to be in there coaching the quarterback. He's got a whole team to run. Somebody's in that room with your quarterback every day. I think Baker Mayfield, it's not because he's bad that he needs a great quarterbacks coach. It's because he's good and he wants to be great. I think it's one of the most important things that's happened this offseason. And I think they would have fixed it if Freddie would have stayed. They would have had to fix it because you saw, I think, Baker lacked that. And you can't have your old backup quarterback be your pseudo quarterback coach. It's too important. You can't let Drew Stanton be the guy in charge of telling Baker Mayfield how to be a pro. And Case Keenum, it's great. Love it. He's not his coach, and Alex Van Pelt's his coach. I think it's huge.
Well, and the other thing is there has to be somebody that Baker can go, somebody has to be watching. It's another set of eyes. I'm seeing this. You're not doing this like you did, earlier in the year. And again, I get the sense he really does want to be coached hard. Do you get that sense as well, being Baker Mayfield?
Yeah. I mean, he's said it enough times. It's his whole ethos. It's what he's been since he started his career as a walk-on and had to transfer. And there are some guys, I think you can be a guy who has a belief in yourself to the extent that's like, I know better than everybody. Like, I don't really know. I don't care what you think. I've got this. That's how I operate. But I think Baker thinks, I know what I'm doing, but I want to know more. So, yeah, I think he's a guy with internal belief who absolutely wants external opinions and advice. And I think Baker will get a lot out of Alex Van Pelt, but I would imagine Alex Van Pelt is going to get a lot out of Baker Mayfield, because doesn't it sound fun to coach a guy like that? A guy who has achieved, a guy who does have raw talent, but a guy who is still early in his process of really learning what it is to be an NFL quarterback. I think Baker Mayfield is right at the point where it would be awesome to coach a guy like that, and I'm hoping this is a great partnership between those two guys.
Absolutely, Doug Lesmerises, and to illustrate that, he's already working on the footwork mechanics that he wants him to, first time that he gets people out there to throw. So I think that will absolutely go a long way. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. When we return, Doug and I will talk about just how important year 3 is for Baker Mayfield. More sports and less Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had 2 choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Browns Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week, and it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Doug Lesmerises will be rejoining us in just a minute. Year 3 for Baker Mayfield. It'll be his 3rd head coach, 4th if you count interim. It will also be his 3rd offensive system. Mayfield seems excited about year 3 and also Kevin Stefanski's offense.
No, it's not an excuse for me. I said, I always have, the best quality about a quarterback is raising the, productivity and the level of the guys around him. So it doesn't matter what's going on. If I do my job and try and do that and accomplish that, then I'm playing quarterback at a high level. So, year 3, but the goal every year is to make it to the Super Bowl. If you don't set that goal, then you're playing for the wrong reasons. You're not playing to win. So it is what it is. Like I said, it's not an excuse.
How do you feel your skill set matches what Stefanski's offense is and how it brings out the best for you?
I think it matches up very nicely. Being in control, getting checks in the run game, just being efficient. And last year I know was not a great year for turnovers, but I've always prided myself on not turning the ball over. And so that's something the conversations we've had is, when we do take our shots, it has to be smart decisions, and there's nothing wrong with a good incompletion every once in a while. So the scheme-wise, I think my skill set matches up to that very well, and then also how he's coaching it. I think it's going to be a great fit.
Can you just talk about how you think that things will go this year with Odell and Jarvis, considering they're coming off of their surgeries and who knows how much they're really going to be able to practice in training camp. Do you feel like you have enough to build on, or might that be a little bit of a hindrance in the early going?
No, I think what we're doing right now in these Zoom meetings and these installs will create a great foundation for scheme-wise of being on the same page. And I've enjoyed kind of sitting in and listening on some receiver meetings with Coach O'Shea. He's a very sharp guy as well. But, those guys are working extremely hard after their surgeries for the rehab process, and they look really good. They say they feel really good, and it appears that way. It's just a different mindset going into it. And I think, like I said, I think they went back to the basics. They're ready to take over, and it's their time now. They know that. They know that we only have so many more opportunities together. So they're going to do everything for each other, and I'm looking forward to see the productivity they have.
Baker Mayfield talking about playing in Kevin Stefanski's system with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham as the wide receivers. Let's welcome back in Doug Lesmerises. Doug, when you look at what Kevin Stefanski's offense did with Stefon Diggs and Adam Thielen, you got to get kind of excited about having guys like Beckham and Landry filling those 2 wide receiver positions.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's the balance, because a lot of people like to talk about how often Kevin Stefanski uses 2 tight ends, how important that 12 personnel package is, and signing Austin Hooper and expecting a big year out of David Njoku. But Minnesota receivers lit it up, baby. I mean, those are two dangerous guys in Diggs and Thielen that they had on the field, and they utilized them both. There's just potential across the board, and I think I think the fact that Odell is here in year 2 and they have a better understanding of things, it can be a tough balance, I think, at times between trying to target certain players and then also just taking sort of what the defense gives you. And if that guy's not open in the route, then you've got to go to this guy. And all of a sudden you're not throwing Odell Beckham Jr. enough. That can be a tough balance at times. But I do like the way you phrase the question, Dave, because I think we've talked so much about how important the tight ends are going to be and how comfortable Baker is throwing to tight ends. And that's why they spent money on Austin Cooper. I think it's, you can't forget that Odell Beckham Jr. might have a monster year, man. Like it really is out there for that. And he really, it really wasn't good. Yeah, he got to 1,000 yards last year. Man, this guy had 108 receiving yards per game his first year in the league. He had 67 per game last year. I mean, what if you had 40 yards per game to Odell Beckham in 2020? What a huge difference that would be. So, I think it depends how you want to talk about it. You can end up talking about how every single position on the Browns offense is going to be better than it's ever been because there's such, I think, great faith and hope with Kevin Stefanski. But I just do think there is legitimate reason to just feel like the passing game will function properly.
Think about the matchup problems that this offense can potentially create. So you do have tight ends, Njoku and Hooper. You've got Landry, you've got Beckham, you've got Chubb, you've got Hunt. I mean, you're going to be able to put a really good offensive player on a less than really good defender.
I was waiting for you to shout Super Bowl. Right? I mean, it's what else do you want? You think about the recent history of the Browns and the receivers they trotted out there for years and how basically since they returned, it was Josh Gordon and not much else. And the whole narrative was they could never find anybody to catch a pass. It's why it's hard. I mean, it's hard right now, right? Everyone's a little gun shy about predictions because so many people got out over their skis about last season. But then you just do what you did, Dave. And it's there's a lot there, man. But Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield and Kareem Hunt and Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham and Rashard Higgins and David Njoku were all here last year too. And it didn't look great. So, there's nothing you're lacking, right? But the whole point was they couldn't function at their highest level as skill guys last year because their offensive line wasn't. So the thing you have to count on is that Jack Conklin and Jedrick Wills and figuring out right guard will allow all the rest of that to happen because we did a lot of this same stuff last offseason, talking about what Odell was going to do, and the passing and the running game complementing each other, and then it didn't happen. So it has to start with that offensive line. Baker has to feel comfortable behind that line. They have to give him time. But if that happens, and if the play calling meshes with everyone's strong suits, then you start going down and you start talking about AFC championship games because you just listed off 6 skill guys that I think any team in the league would take.
What about Baker Mayfield? I expect him to have a really good year. He quite frankly, he admitted he needs to. Year 3 is usually when you put everything together. The Browns need to get a really good handle. Is this guy as good as we thought he was 2 years ago?
So I do know, I understand that the third-year thing has been talked about by a lot of people. If he's still kind of average in year 3, he's still going to be the quarterback in year 4, right? So, for instance, you look at Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota from that draft several years ago. They're now both entering their 6th seasons, and both their teams have given up on them by now. But Jameis Winston got 5 full years in Tampa. Marcus Mariota was the starter going into year 4 or into year 5 last year in Tennessee before Ryan Tannehill replaced him. So he got 4+. Mitch Trubisky in the next draft, he's now going into year 4. He's a year ahead of Baker. They brought in competition. Nick Foles might take his job. Mitch Trubisky got 3 full years. And really, the Bears have a lot of pieces and it didn't really connect last year. So that's why I think they've invested in maybe not having Mitch Trubisky be their guy, but he got 3 full. I think Baker is going to get a full 4th year. So I don't think it's a make or break year. I think we've talked a little bit too much about that because it's his first year head coach, right? It's another new system that he's learning. We're talking about all this footwork stuff. There are still like legitimate reasons that wouldn't be excuses of why it might not be perfect in 2020. There's a pandemic, right? A practice is affected. So I think part of the reason that you have a chance to succeed with a quarterback is because he knows the franchise believes in. So he's going to be the guy in 2021 regardless, no matter what. So, I mean, like, there's nothing he can do in year 3 to make them decide to, like, move on by year 4. I know Case Keenum's here, but listen, I mean, the guy needs a little consistency in his life. So Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield are going to get a second year in 2021, regardless of what happens in 2020. But man, wouldn't it be nice for it to look great in 2020? But I would like everyone to back off a little bit on, like, he needs to show it now, because the whole point of this is you take him number 1 and he gets at least 4 to show whether he's the guy or not. And if you don't have that kind of investment, you lessen your chances of it actually working out.
But they certainly have given him every tool to succeed. Is there a pressure with that? Because now you've plugged the tackles pretty aptly. You got the best right tackle in free agency. You took arguably the best the best tackle at 10, or one of the best. You've got those skill position guys. I mean, the pieces are there to make the quarterback look good.
Rookie left tackle, man. Like I'm not saying he won't be good, but if there are bumps there, and if Baker's getting whacked on his blind side because Jedrick Wills is a rookie, that could happen. And I am a little fascinated, and it's not that I don't believe in Kevin Stefanski, but like, people were kind of excited for Freddie Kitchens a year ago as a first-year head coach, and then it didn't work, and now everyone's excited for Kevin Stefanski, but there's just a lot of assumptions, that like, well, he's, this guy seems like of course, but I don't know. I mean, it's certainly possible that Kevin Stefanski and this offense might have some of the hiccup that Freddie Kitchens had. Hopefully not to that extent, with sort of a disconnect between Freddie and Todd Monken and Odell being new. There are other things in place, but, there are still some very important parts of this that are new. And so I think pressure on Baker in year 3 is the wrong characterization. I think expect him to be better, but I would push back against any idea of like make or break, because I still think he could be in year 3 could be better than year 2, still not great, but he could still get there by year 4. I think that's very reasonable. So I think he'll be good in year 3, but I think it would be a mistake to go in with the belief he must prove in year 3 he's a franchise quarterback, because he should get year 4 to prove that as well, no matter what.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com. We're going to take a quick time out, and when we return here on More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition, we're going to talk to a local guy, a former Buckeye, coming back, Parris Campbell, straight ahead. When More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition returns. Stay with us.
Your home is your most important investment, and your basement is the go-to part of your home. It's your children's rec room. It's where your family and friends spend time together. It's much more than just a basement. Now is the perfect time to add beauty and value to your home with an authentic NatureStone basement floor. And every NatureStone floor comes with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty. For a limited time, get our exclusive mini pearl stone for as low as $2.99 a square foot, plus installation. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's NatureStone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. We're going to shift our focus, talk about a local guy. Parris Campbell graduated from St. Vincent St. Mary High School when he was 16. Went on to have a couple of really good years for the Ohio State Buckeyes and was the second-round pick of the Indianapolis Colts a season ago. Injuries held him to just 7 games played and 3 games started for the Colts, but Parris Campbell, very healthy, able to run routes, and he's excited to get back on the field in Indianapolis.
It was very taxing, especially for someone who, I've never experienced anything like that. But, I just always stayed true to myself. My family was around me to support me during that time. Teammates, coaching staff, really everyone around the building just was supporting me. But during that time, injury after injury, rehab, you get to feel kind of lonely. So, I had to, like I said, stick to my family, my support system, and they were there for me big time.
All right, George Bremer.
Dennis, thanks for doing this. Last year, obviously, you missed all that time, and then this spring, there's no, everything's shut down. Is there any danger in overdoing it when you do get back on the field? Do you have to hold yourself back at all a little bit?
No, I don't think so. I feel like during this offseason, even though, with everything going on, I've done a really, really good job of getting in a routine, taking care of my body, doing things that I wasn't doing before. And I feel like I have a really good grasp on that. That was one of the things I wanted to change this offseason, make sure I have a strict routine so that my body's in tip-top shape. And I've been, kind of simulating things, so when I get back on the field, it's not all new to me again. So I'm just trying to put myself in every situation I can possibly.
All right, Phil B.
Hi, Parris. Thank you for your time, sir. Of
course.
I saw you play at Ohio State every year you were there, and you never got hurt. You made big plays all the time. Obviously, everything didn't play out the way you wanted last year. Do you go into this year with the mindset that you haven't really shown what you can do, or that people will see the real Parris Campbell this time?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going in with the mindset just, that it's a new year. I've, kind of transformed myself, into a pro. And I've been able to see, at least one season. Maybe it's not all 16 games, but I've seen just from, watching, being in it, just getting the experience of being an NFL player, just having that experience. So it's helped me a lot. I know it's only 1 year. It's, tons of more stuff to learn, tons of more stuff to do, but it was a good foundation for me, even though it didn't go the way I wanted it to go.
Former Ohio State Buckeye, St. Vincent St. Mary Fighting Irish Parris Campbell. Let's welcome back in Doug Lesmerises. Doug, as a longtime Buckeyes beat reporter, you saw Parris Campbell play. Do you have any question at all he's going to be a pretty good pro for the Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah, I do. I love Parris personally, and I think he is a rare combination of size and speed. And I wrote about that at the NFL Combine and talked with him. I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but he was among a very rare group of guys over about a decade to run as fast as he did at the size he is. That guy is big and thick and strong and a burner. He's not some little fast guy. He's not some skinny fast guy. He is a muscular, tough, fast guy. But I don't know. I don't know that he's a pure receiver. And, people, I heard one of the questions about there, at Ohio State, it took a long time for it to click for him at Ohio State. Redshirted, then he had no catches his second year as a redshirt freshman. He had like 13 catches his third year. So after 3 years, he hadn't done much. He was a good player in year 4, second leading receiver with 40 catches. And then as a fifth-year senior, he went nuts. 90 catches, led the team in receiving yards. But he's not like a down-the-field pure receiver. He was a running back in high school. He's a fast guy. He's just not he's not Michael Thomas, So I actually thought he was a little overdrafted where he was picked. Terry McLaurin, who was a third-rounder behind him in the same draft that Parris was a second-rounder. Terry McLaurin is much more of a complete receiver, and it's just what he's done his whole life. Parris didn't do that his whole life. So, the person who asked that question, oh, well, you always succeeded at Ohio State. Was it tough last year? That's wrong. It's a mischaracterization. Parris had to work a long time to become the player that he was at Ohio State in year 5. So I know the injuries were tough for him that last year. I did not expect him to go into the NFL and light it up right away. I think it may take some time for him to adjust. And I think he's the kind of receiver that the Colts are going to have to use the right way, because I just don't think you can line him up and have him run crossing routes and deep routes and everything. He's got to get the ball on quick stuff in his hands and then get in the open field. But I actually do have questions. And again, it's not – Parris is one of the greatest guys that I've covered. The relationship those receivers had, Terry McLaurin and Johnny Dixon and Parris Campbell, tremendous guys, worked their butts off, great teammates, great leaders, great captains. But I do have questions about his NFL fit.
The Colts have come out with Frank Reich, and obviously they have Phillip Rivers, said they're going to use him in the slot more. That would seem to kind of play more with what you're talking about.
Got it. He's not an outside receiver. So, whatever you want to do, if you want to run bubble screens and get him the ball and get him a blocker and let him go, he's the kind of guy, if he's going to catch a 90-yard pass, he's going to catch it 1 yard from the line of scrimmage and run the other 89. He's not going to catch it 40 yards down the field and run another 50. But you had to know that coming out. Again, you have to understand the kind of players these guys are. And again, that was a guy who had the ball in his hands as a running back in high school. I think we're way removed from that, and guys change. But it's a little bit like with Braxton Miller. If you thought they were when Braxton Miller got drafted, if you thought you were drafted a receiver, you were wrong, man. You were drafted a really talented dude, but you had to use him the right way, and it never really happened for him in the NFL, partly because of injuries a little bit. But Braxton Miller was overdrafted in the 3rd round, and I think, if the Colts don't find the right way to use him, Braxton Miller was a tremendous football player who didn't really click as an NFL receiver. Parris Campbell's a tremendous football player. I think it's going to take some work by him and his team for it to click as an NFL receiver.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com and The Plain Dealer. We appreciate the time and insight as always. Thanks a lot, Doug.
Thank you.
That'll do it for this edition of More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Want to remind you, Les will be back in the chair Monday from 6 to 7, and we'll see you again next Friday right here on the Weekend Winners Edition. Have a great weekend, everybody, and stay safe. Good night.